Today I'm back in sunny South Wales to meet up with a previous guest, Matt Cox, who has continued to buy properties in this area and has recently switched from traditional buy-to-let to the social housing strategy. So I am here today to find out more. So last time we filmed together, you might recognise Matt here as a reoccurring guest to the channel. And last time we filmed together, we went round to 2 of your projects, didn't we? And since then, Matt actually came on board with Property X as one of our main key team members, and you now head up our sourcing division.
Yeah.
So, and you have done since about November, or October, November, sorry, so that's about 6 to 7 months or so. How are you finding it?
Yeah, it's been a great experience so far. I think it's been great to really engage with Property X members, and obviously it's a great way to make money whilst you're doing your property refurbs. It really helps with the refurb budget, especially when it starts to getting bigger and bigger. But it's fantastic to be given the platform to really express and grow my property knowledge and help other investors get on board. I think that's the best part about it as well. It's been really fulfilling to get people on board with property and get them going.
100% yes. And I think something you mentioned there is like leveling up your knowledge, because it's like when I started sourcing, you suddenly realise there's so many different strategies, so many different things, so many different problems you have to solve, that actually overall you build up your property knowledge, don't you?
Oh, 100%.
So yeah, like I'm massively grateful to have you as part of the team, and you are a key asset. And for anyone that comes into our WhatsApp community, so if you join our sourcing list, you'll be invited to our WhatsApp community. And Matt will be the one sending out the deals and that you'll end up talking to. So get familiar with Matt going forward. And today we're here to look at two of your projects again, aren't we? This one, which I've never seen before today. So we'll head on in now.
Absolutely.
Walk us through, tell us about the house so far, kind of what's happened and what the plans are.
Sure, so I picked up this property about 6 months ago. So again, it's been longer than your average refurb.
Yep.
I actually offered asking price on this house because I knew it had potential to be something really cool.
Yep.
And as you look around, you can see why it's like so different to your average house around here.
Yeah.
With its Victorian features. I knew I could make it something really special. So I was like, I just need this, get it off the market, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll do numbers later. But straight away, I knew this had potential and the space to be a HMO. And initially, we were looking at a 5-bed HMO. Brilliant, such good cash flow. Spoke to the architect, said, yeah, it should be doable, should be fine. In the end, was it perfect? No, it was a 4-bed HMO, but I'm still really happy with the result. Also, it means that the tenants will have a really nice big living room on the side. And the important thing as well is it doesn't affect the end value. It's still going to be great.
Fine.
It's just the monthly cash flow is slightly less than what I initially thought, but overall, still really happy.
I'm going to ask you about that in a minute as to why you got 4 beds, not 5. But whilst in here, so is this going to be a living room or a bedroom?
Well, to be honest, when you look around, you'll see that most of these living rooms have the same kind of features. Everyone's got like a fireplace.
Yeah.
Personally, I feel with the view out there, this will be the living room.
Yeah.
And TV somewhere, etc. And then the other ones will be a bedroom.
Yes.
But you can make a case for the other one being a bedroom.
I guess
well.
you could switch it up really, couldn't you?
What it was in the old days was a dining room. This house has so much history. It was actually an undertaker. So the person who lived here was a builder and an undertaker. We haven't uncovered any skeletons yet, but we've got a few ideas. Somewhere. Yeah.
So okay, cool. Let's head on round then. There's
Brilliant.
so much to show you with this house, isn't there? So another nice sort of fire feature area, isn't it?
You can tell they've started to start clearing that out, and these fireplaces, whilst they look old, they're just fantastic for character. And a lick of paint and it might change some tiling here and there. It'll look great. Obviously, this house was riddled with damp. One of the big parts of the refurb was sorting that out because of the brickwork. Yeah. You can tell we've not had the heaters on, so some of the little bit of mold's come in, but it's not.
Like mold spores. But again, if you're not running heating exactly at this stage, you're probably likely to see that.
So it's not a major issue, and we're just finishing off with the second fix electrics now. Yep. So we really are coming into the straight and narrow now for this.
Yeah.
And,
nice big window overlooking the garden.
Exactly. So that's where we believe that shed over there is where we believe that some of the undertaker business dealings were done.
So there would have been like a shed there, and what, they kept the bodies?
Potentially, we don't know. But yeah, and a small garden up there with a bit of work to do. But for the purposes of what I'm using it for, we're not going to put too much into the garden, because whilst it can add some value, it's better spent just getting it refinanced to how it is and cash flowing for the tenants that will be in, or as we speak about in the future, this will be a HMO.
So as we've kind of, I guess, touched on it now, you're planning social housing HMO,
Yes.
and they don't really. They're not too fussed about it.
They honestly want the garden as small as possible, which I was like, it's music to my ears.
Yeah.
They just don't want any maintenance. Of course, it'd be great for them to have some space. So there is like a decent space there. We're going to put some grey slate down. So, you know, if someone smokes, for example, they've got somewhere to do that.
Yeah, that would look really nice.
We could even put a little bit of a table and chairs if they wanted to.
Yes.
But we're not going to we're going to sort of fence off that back bit there.
Yeah.
So for when the valuer comes in, we'll acknowledge that, the extra bit of space, we'll tidy it up. But to be honest with you, we're just going to fence it off because it's not needed.
Yes.
And maybe if we spent at least 5k, probably closer to, I don't know how much more, to sort all that brickwork out, because there's a little bit of a structural slope in some of the brickwork.
I see.
I personally don't feel that the money I put in, I will get back out for valuation.
Like if you're selling it to flip it, yes,
100%.
But with the strategy you've got, probably not.
Exactly. And maybe after a couple of years, after maybe a refinance or two, I get some cash out, I might be, let's tidy that up and see what happens.
Yeah.
But for now, it's not a priority. Priority is just to cash flow and to take out as much money as possible without putting too much in.
Makes sense. So this will be a
bedroom one.
Bedroom one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really
cool.
nice size.
I love the hallway. I love this. Honestly, this is definitely the nicest house of yours that I've seen.
Yeah.
Nice house I've seen in a while. It's really, really nice.
I love it. I absolutely love it. They say you shouldn't get emotionally attached to your houses. Well, this is not the case. I love this house.
And then through to this room, so it's like a lowered bit of head height. Is that obviously presumably under the stairs?
Yeah, again, we were considering whether to raise it, but again, whilst it is slightly annoying, if you're 5'11" and above, it can be it can be slightly annoying, but you don't need to do anything. If it was a new build, you would have to address that. Yeah. But because it's not, then it's sort of grandfathered in. So I asked building regs that, and they said absolutely fine, just carry on with it.
That's a bonus.
Yeah.
So this is going to be the kitchen.
Yes, and again, this is one that I may have done it slightly differently upon reflection. We've sort of had a fireplace here, load bearing. Yeah. If I had done this again, I would have potentially considered ripping it out, just obviously make it a little bit bigger and a nice sort of square rectangular kitchen. We didn't in the end. Again, it still functions absolutely fine. Social housing are fine. So we're going to have units coming across all here, and the kitchen gets delivered in 3 days. So I'll be very excited to see that.
And that's from
Howdens. You know, obviously Magnet Howdens, they're both great.
Yep.
Normally the contractor gets a great value discount on them. So people say Magnet, people say Howdens, they're both fine.
Yeah, they're both near enough the same in many ways, aren't they?
Exactly.
But something to note here that I always look at, particularly at this stage of the project, is like the plastering, because this is really nicely plastered.
Yeah.
And for me, this stage of the project is when you find out like whether you've got a good builder or not, or like whether someone is cares about the end products and the quality, because you know, for example, this has been fully boarded out, which is why it's probably easier to get that smooth finish versus just plastering on top of obviously just a previous wall.
Exactly.
But the way in which it is plastered, the attention to detail is really important. And obviously there's always going to be little snags, but I think for the most part, it's plastered really well.
Oh, for sure. I mean, as you said, this is a long-term investment. So I knew that I wanted to plaster it properly. Yeah. I wanted a nice blank canvas and build something special from it. Don't get me wrong. Social housing was saying to me, Matt, you don't need to put this nice feature and you don't need that. And I'm like, it's very true, but it's not just the rent aspect, you're also thinking about the end valuation, of course. Yeah. And I do notice that. And,
and a house like this with so much history, it's cool to do.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So what's this bit down here?
So this bit's quite interesting. Literally, that kitchen was barely utilised, and all the kitchen units are actually here. And as you can see, it's quite narrow.
Yeah.
But you had your sink here, your gas hob was here. I can't see if we can spot where the gas connection was there. So they did all their cooking here. Which is how they segregated their undertaking side of the business and the living side of the business. Yeah. I don't quite know how it works.
I think you can say they wash the bodies.
Maybe, that's common practice, I'm not sure. But to be honest, we're just using it as a utility corridor.
Yes, I think it's great for that.
Exactly. One thing you have to consider with the HMOs is that every tenant has at least 2 cupboards. So this corridor was really handy actually in ensuring that we had enough space for the cupboards. Yeah. And you know, it's just more space because 4 people in that space is doable, but it's a little cramped.
Yeah.
Whereas here you've got potential sink. We're going to have 2 sinks.
Yep.
In your average home, this would be like you're washing up, not your washing up, where you clean your football boots or something like that. Whereas I can see it easily being used as a washing up station here, whilst all your cooking and preparations in there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then we sort of have an NWC over there.
That'll stay as a WC?
Yes,
Yeah.
we've not actually touched that. The tiling, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's if I was doing it from scratch, I'd keep it on theme, but it's just cheaper to leave it.
It looks perfectly good condition.
Exactly. So, yeah. It's a new toilet, and we'll repaint above, and that's the second toilet for a 4-bed HMO, which is honestly pretty good.
Good. Okay. Nice.
Spotlights. Always do spotlights, especially in the areas where it gets a little bit dark. This is the first. I'm not sure if the electrics are on, so this could be egg on face here.
Yeah. Hey.
There you go.
Yeah. Look,
Can't see.
It's definitely well done. Yeah, you can turn those off.
So I think the general layout, you can probably picture it quite clearly.
Yeah.
Breakfast bar here.
Yeah.
Just for space. If you had full-size units, it would make everything a little bit cramped.
Yeah, I guess because that's like 600 in, isn't it?
Exactly.
So yeah, you suddenly lose a big part of the room. It'd be like that bit.
Exactly. Yeah, the Howdens guy had a bit of a challenge in trying to how to fit everything in, and then sort of gas hob, oven, and your sink over there. And then you've got this sort of area to walk around in. Obviously, when the units are in, it'll feel a little bit tighter, but it's still a fine size kitchen.
Yeah, I agree. No, I think actually it'd be really good. It'd be a perfect size for 4 people. One thing you mentioned downstairs was about planning. I wanted to readdress that. So you said you wanted the 5, but unfortunately got 4.
Yeah.
What was the reason behind giving 4 but not 5?
Yeah, so that was a bit of a learning curve, and it may have been a mistake. I'd probably say on the architect without pointing fingers where I am. Is every council has a guideline for what they want in the HMO, although a lot of them are quite similar.
Okay.
Sometimes they'll throw in every bedroom needs a sink or something like that. Thankfully, this one doesn't, because I hate that idea. But generally speaking, for this property, every bedroom needs to be above 10.2 meters squared, which they all are except for one. And as a result, we couldn't use that unless there is an additional living room. So just to summarize that in a more simple way, there's one kitchen, which we tried to pass off as a kitchen/diner. And you can have every room being a bedroom unless one bedroom is less than 10.2 meters squared. If that's the case, then unfortunately you will need another room to be dedicated as a living room, a living space, dining space. So as I said, we tried to pass off that kitchen as a kitchen/diner, but because it was quite awkward with the, we were using the corridor as part of that measuring up, but unfortunately they didn't have it, which I understand.
Yes.
Whilst of course it is disappointing, it's still a really good deal pack. It's 4-bed HMO. Just to give you some idea on numbers.
Yeah.
Rented out, probably at least 850, 900.
As a standard buy.
Yeah. Because of its size. Maybe I'm being generous there. Rented out 4 beds, that's £1,400 a month. Again, no management, no voids.
Bit positive.
Very few, little bit of maintenance.
Yeah.
Generally with these sort of deals, the agreements with social housing, all the little bits of maintenance, etc., is covered by the organisation.
Okay.
But for the big stuff, for example, if a boiler goes AWOL or something roof, then you'd be expected to cover that. Yeah,
I think that's fair.
I agree, but generally because you're doing a full back to brick refurb, you're not expecting any of those big things to go wrong. Touch wood. So generally, no, it still works really well.
Yes.
And again, I'll always emphasize this, it's the end value that's one of the most important parts, if not the most important, next to cash flow.
Which I will ask you in a second. I want to say
of course,
that.
keep that best part for the end.
Yeah, the fireplace, honestly, it's beautiful in here.
Yeah,
so good that you kept it.
100%, that was one of the key things here, and it adds a lot of value. Someone told me that people will pay good money for these, but I was like, that's why I'm keeping it. Because it's such a good feature, and it's all you have to do is block it up and give it a little clean down. Probably a repaint on the actual fireplace.
What's nice, and I don't know whether these have been blocked off, these areas, but normally there's a big chimney breast encroaching in the room.
Yes.
Whereas here it's kind of within the wall.
Almost seamless, isn't it?
So it helps because then you don't have to think about, right, I'm going to take out this big chimney breast.
Exactly.
It's sort of there. So yeah, I think it's really good that you kept that.
Yeah.
And it makes this a really nice sized room still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very bright with the views opposite. So
Exactly.
This would be a great room for someone.
For sure. I mean, what they told me, the estate agent, was in the past, so you got a lot of miners' houses in this particular area of South Wales.
Yeah.
This house is more for the higher end of the folks, you know, like a doctor or someone, or even someone said the headmaster of a school, this is the sort of house that they'd be in.
Yeah. I can picture
so
that.
yeah, so it really works. So
Yeah.
the higher end, and what's great is it's so high up and it's just got this sort of sense of grandeur about it.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
it's not like we're in Kensington, but it's still nice for where it is.
I don't think we'll ever be investing.
Yeah, no.
So, let's head round to the other bedrooms and then we'll look at the bathroom at the end.
Perfect. Yeah, nice large attic up there. That we actually considered converting that, but because of regulations, making it a 3-story, it opens a can of worms. So we decided not to. What I'm hoping is the builder hasn't stored all the old materials up there. That's for another day.
Another size, good size bedroom, isn't it? With views of the garden.
Yeah, lovely garden right now.
Yeah, lovely garden.
One thing, try not to let happen, which is what I've done, is try not to leave it in the cold for too long, because if you don't have your heating on, you will get a bit of mould.
Yeah, it's either one way or the other. If you blasted it with heating with all the windows shut, you're going to get mould, or if you don't run the heating at all, then you're going to get mould.
Exactly.
It can't really be helped.
No, you've got to balance off the heating cost as well for an empty house. You can just obviously treat it and it'll be okay. It just sometimes hurts inside when you've freshly plastered it and you get a bit of mould. But it's also a little test to see how well it copes with just no heating.
That's true.
And doing it over the winter, that's just one of the consequences.
But yeah, really nice size, double bedroom, isn't it?
Yep, so really happy with this one.
And you said about 1,400 for the rent, didn't you?
Yep, so with this particular organisation, they offer $350 per room per month.
Yeah.
Goes up every year with inflation.
And that's no matter about the room size, it's just standard rate,
yeah,
$350.
For them, it's just numbers. How many folks can you take on for? Okay, this is the rate, and you go from there.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, it can vary if it's in a more premium location, etc.
Yes.
But no, the yields are excellent. There's a lot of HMOs. Well, again, you can sort of say that for anything, but it varies based on how much the HMO might cost and the rental yield you get for it. But this is, for me, the yield is excellent.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I can understand why you went for HMO over buy-to-let.
Yeah,
all day long. So.
Yeah, I love buy-to-lets, and obviously, we preach that on Property X.
Yeah.
Vanilla buy-to-lets are fantastic, and I've got a good number of them, and they just do their thing in the background. But also, if you can start to broaden your horizon into HMOs, it's like you're like, wow,
You're at the point where you've got that foundation, and you're kind of wanting to do something a bit more challenging and exciting, and this house is definitely that, isn't it? So we'll head over to the bathroom, but this is a bedroom, obviously.
Yeah, this will be bedroom 4, and one of my favourites as well, because of the nice fireplace, got the garden. The only downside is the boiler.
Yes.
But, maybe if you're a perfectionist, you might move this, but you don't always need to.
No.
And so long as your client, social housing organisation, don't care, you
Yeah.
don't need to, just leave it.
So then just house it in a cupboard.
Yeah,
So
we'll repaint this,
nice and out the way.
and there's still plenty of storage, and maybe a slight bonus is that if the boiler gets a little warm, it might help as a secondary radiator.
Yeah, true. Cool. So I'm intrigued to know your plans on the bathroom, because it's still very much a sort of shell at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it was due to start last week. We've had a few delays for these standard issues that you always have to account for. Probably the smallest room in the house, but it still functions just fine. Normally, I always put baths in. This particular one, I decided not to.
Okay.
Partly because it's a HMO as well.
Yes,
You don't really want folks taking baths when 3 others might want a shower.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a shower tray along here, all nice and new. Toilet there, sink where you stood. And then the key, what you probably notice around this house is all its features, its sort of historic features, as they say.
Yeah.
So we're going to try and keep on theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we've gone for is using white tiles with a grey grouting to keep on the Victorian theme. And then, just your standard white shower with a shower glass, black shower glass, etc.
Oh, right, yeah.
Keeping it nice and simple,
but
also like a nod of the head to the the Victorian style. And
I think it makes sense to do. And although you're not, as I said, going for like maximum price to sell it or something, you still want to get a nice, healthy end value. Don't you?
Exactly, yeah. And
that will help with it, because keeping everything in that style, aren't you?
Exactly, and whilst you shouldn't get emotionally attached to these projects, like I sort of have on this one, and it's quite fun designing these sometimes, and hopefully the valuer will agree with me.
So, said we'd come back to the numbers.
Yeah.
So what was the purchase price on this?
So I offered asking on this because
Yeah.
I knew I wanted it.
Yeah.
I bought it at 95.
Yep.
I then negotiated midway through the sale process a further £2,000 off, using things such as damp to justify my concerns.
Yes. Yeah.
Doing things such as getting quotes.
Yes.
So we bought it at 93. With legal costs and stamp, etc., it came in at 99 and a couple of other fees, all that stuff.
Yep.
And then
Refurb?
we kind of basically 50 grand. It was 47, and then we've added a few things here and there. That also includes rendering the property as well to make it look nice, give it that curb appeal.
Yeah.
Generally more expensive, partly because of its size, more
Yeah.
plastering, more boarding. I've gone for a slightly nicer kitchen as well. And yeah, just to give it that, I think the property deserves the better finish.
Yes. Yeah.
So I decided to give it that extra bit of bit of money in there, knowing that I get a good return. And of course, the end value, the all important end value, I think this will hit 190 to 200,000 pounds. I've based it off comparables. For example, next door,
Yes.
literally next door, is a smaller property done up to a pretty decent standard with a
Yeah.
good render. That was on the market. When I bought it, it was on the market for 220. I was like, wow, this is a great project. Didn't sell. I think it's still on the market. It's about 190.
Yeah.
So worst case scenario, being conservative, if it hits 180, I'll be like, it's fine. Because then I would have about £15,000 left in.
Okay.
Once I've refinanced.
Still isn't too much for the longevity that this asset could provide you with.
Exactly.
Cash flow.
Exactly. Yeah, the yield is good. 190. Fantastic, even better, less money in.
Yeah.
And then the gold, the real gold mine would be if it hit £200,000, because I'd pretty much be pulling all of my money out if I can refinance 75%. Therefore, you pull out 150, which is pretty much all of my costs going in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, by the way, just to mention as well, the £50,000, that's everything. That's architect, that's building control, that's the planning, all the planning documents, etc.
Yeah.
So yes, that's another thing I mentioned as well, is that all these extra costs you have to consider. But of course, for compensation, you're getting a much higher rental every month.
Yeah, I think they're really good numbers, and I can see why you just went in. Sometimes, and it's rare, sometimes if there's a house on the market and it comes on and you can see the numbers working, then it's just worth paying that extra for it.
100%.
Squabbling over 2,000-3,000, maybe losing it to another buyer, it just isn't worthwhile.
Yes. Yeah.
So I feel like that's what's happened in this instance. Obviously, most cases, you have to create the value.
Yes.
But you've had a vision with this one, you've seen it come on and potentially thought that's a cracking deal. Because at the end of the day, if this is on for 95, which is what you first agreed it at, and the next door neighbour's on for 220, there's some value there potentially.
Yes, even if the neighbour hasn't quite sold it for that price
Agreed,
he wanted.
yeah.
But you're right, exactly. I knew there's a lot of flexibility in those numbers. And another thing I knew is I work in this area quite a lot.
Yes.
And there's not a lot of houses like this one, which means you can command a better end value as well.
Yeah.
It's not a miner's house, it's very much a higher end house. And because of the square meters, I knew I could put a lot of rooms in here.
Brilliant.
Okay, maybe not 5, but still 4 is great,
Yeah.
and I'm happy with that. So,
I think you should be really pleased with this project.
Yeah, thank you.
I think it's very impressive, and the fact that it has all of its features, it's got a really lovely landing, staircase. Yeah, I think it's a good house overall.
Thank you.
Well, Matt, it's been a while since we've been here, but it doesn't look as if much has changed. Would you mind sharing with everyone kind of your plans and what's changed here?
Yeah, so bit of a change of plan on this one. This was intended as a 3-bed sort of BRR standard buy-to-let. And then in December, myself and my business partner, Danny, decided to take a bit of a gamble, and hopefully it's paying off. We're still in that painful stage where we're still getting things done. But yeah, we're converting it into a 4-bed HMO, which is crazy for a property this size, but we've gone through it all with building control, we've had planning approved, and so now we're just doing all those hoops that you have to jump through to get it across the line.
Yeah, that's brilliant to hear. And as you kind of alluded to there, like if you'd, after our last video, just gone ahead, finished it as a 3-bed house, like you'd be long gone by now and done.
Yeah.
But this change was a calculated risk, and you've gone, right, let's go for it because we'll get better return from it. Is that right?
Exactly. So it's prolonged completion by at least 4 months. You know, in that time we've obviously could have pulled our cash out and started another project or put it somewhere else. But you know, if we're talking, let's get straight to it. The numbers. Is that if we were renting this out, it would rent for $750 a month as a standard buy to let.
Yep.
But we've got an agreed contract with social housing for a 4-bed HMO that is £1,400 per month. No voids, no management, no vacancy. For 6 years, so you know,
so just under double, literally, isn't it?
Exactly.
In terms
So
of rent.
exactly. So it's short-term pain for long-term gain.
No, that's great.
And some added cost as well. That's and we've had to be quite creative of how we utilise each room. And I guess we'll quickly go around that right now.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, let's head around.
Okay.
One thing I remember straight away, obviously this room might be a bit dark on camera, but that was obviously opened up and that's now been boarded.
Yeah.
What was the thought process behind that? Is that because that's going to be a bedroom?
That's going to be bedroom 1. Yeah. And every room has to be at least 6.5 metres squared.
Yep.
But obviously this is a dark room. There was a plan to potentially take this out, but in the end we decided not to and just put a ton of spotlights in, which you can see there. But one of the big things we've done, go through.
Carry on through, yes. I remember this room because I remember us talking about how the kitchen was going to be, and how that you couldn't really like knock through because the walls are so thick. So what was the?
So it's still on the small side, but what we've done here is we've got the shed here. Still a lot of work to do, which we're currently damp-proofing. Got the roof above our heads, and again, there's a lot to still do. And we've still got at least a couple of months to finish this, but this will open it all out, bring more light in, more space that will allow us to have the 4-bed.
So it's literally a flat roof extension to join that building to this building.
Because the thing was, we decided to take on the risk because we needed planning permission anyway to get the 4-bed. So we're like, well, we may as well use that time to get an additional extension in if you're going to do it anyway. So, and that will add value to the property, of course, and allow us to pull more money out when the time comes.
One thing you did mention as well, whilst we're here to address, is that given the works you've had going on, the weather, it's been quite damp. So even some of the works you have done have now got damp.
Yeah, we're gonna have to we'll have to redo it actually. Some of it, you can see where the dot and dab is. We'll have to address that because it has been exposed over the winter.
Yes.
Honestly, overall, I'm quite impressed of how it's held up. There's just been 1 or 2 boardings that need to be redone. You know, this is, like I said, if it was a sealed house with heating on, we'd be fine. But it's sort of shown us that there's still bits to do.
And it literally is like completely exposed and open.
Exactly.
Like that.
But yeah, we'll go upstairs and I'll show you the room layout.
So room layout wise, has anything changed upstairs?
Yes, so based off when you were last here, so you can look around and it doesn't look it, but we are actually almost finished in the upstairs. We've got the second fix electrics all in.
Yes.
This boiler needs to be serviced, but it will still work. It'll be boxed in.
Yep.
And then obviously painted, architrave, skirting, doors, speaks for itself. But yeah, the upstairs has got not very much to do at all.
And you can see that extension out here now, and obviously the extent of the garden size as well.
Exactly. To be honest, when it comes to gardens and social housing, they don't really want a garden. So we're just going to literally give it the very basic treatment, and perhaps give it an annual, brush up, etc. Funnily enough, actually, the neighbour has asked if you'll rent it out to him, which could be a small little side piece. Right. But to be honest, he'll be doing us a favour, so we might just say 25 quid a month or something like that.
Small.
Just peanuts. But
he's look after it.
He's doing us a favour, and then let's be frank here. You know, he's got to put up have a new property with new tenants in. It's like a small favour in return for being so. He's been very good with us. He's given us access to do drain surveys, etc. So you know, it just really emphasises the importance of having a good relationship with neighbours in your area, just to make sure everything's
give and take, isn't it?
Exactly. And so we feel that, you know, we'll give them a bit of garden space for next to nothing. Can't sell it because obviously that will create problems in the future. But it's a nice little add-on.
You might end up with some little owls and turtles like
he's got everything in there.
So cool, carry on round then and let's have a look at the other rooms.
Exactly. So in terms of layout, based on the last video, we had to get quite creative in squeezing 4 bedrooms into a property that's literally 65 metres squared. So what we did, this room alone, it was less than 6.5 metres squared. Square metres. So what the builder did to his credit is we used some of the corridor to add in this bit of extra space here. Now, let's be frank here, it's not particularly functional, but you know, it could be a storage space. You could put in a wardrobe there or something like that, and that does get us across the line to to meet regulations basically.
Amazing.
And building control signed it off. Well, they will sign it off. They said they're fine with it.
Yeah.
So this is our most difficult room, but we've got around it.
Yep.
And I honestly reckon I'll probably have, you know, one of the smallest HMOs around, but as long as the tenants are happy, it's going to be finished to a good standard.
Yeah.
You know, everyone wins.
To get a nice house, somewhere to live, that's the main thing, isn't it? So
exactly.
that'll be your claim to fame.
Yeah, the claim to fame. So long as they're comfortable, but yeah, I think they will be. It'll be cozy. I'll put it that way.
And this looks big enough, so I'm guessing obviously this is fine. This room.
Exactly. You could get away with a double bed on this. As you can see, we've got second fix up here as well. Windows need to be serviced, but if you're just looking upstairs, you'd be like, oh, he's quite close to finishing. But then obviously you get downstairs and you realise there's still a fair bit to do.
So for obvious reasons, it's taken longer than planned because now you're doing the extension, which takes a long time. But other than that, what are the main reasons as to why you think it's taken longer from you doing a standard buy-to-let to now doing it as HMO?
So I think the main things are, of course, regulation. So obviously we would need building control to sign this off to make sure they're happy, and with that comes a list of requirements they need. You know, things such as internal insulation. So one issue we actually had was these walls aren't actually insulated, because if we did put that in, obviously it's more boarding and that makes the room smaller. So that would actually, again, not meet the requirements. So our creative way around that was to do an EWI, external insulation, which in reality is sort of questionable in terms of how effective it is, but it does actually tick the box. So we're going to actually do a render on the outside with some insulation. So that was one thing. Another thing we had to do is we had a gas meter downstairs in the bedroom, and we would need to change that up. So what we're going to do is put a electronic, I can't remember the technical term, electronic switch basically, which means that somebody in a communal area can quickly press the switch, and that will signal to the gas pipe to also switch to cut off supply. So that's another small thing.
Rather than having to go through the bedroom.
Exactly, because there'll be a lock on it. So what if that person's asleep or it's locked, etc. So you need to be able to cut that off. And then you've got your just general HMO rules, such as, you know, you need to use fireproof doors, FD30. They're a bit more expensive, and you need just little things you don't think about. You need the architrave that's going to support these heavier doors. You need to think about the fire exits, etc. Yeah, it has certainly been a challenge. But we're working through them. I would say I would literally call this, you know, a hurdle race. But instead of jumping over each one, you're kind of just running through every barrier. But we are getting towards the end line, and whilst it has taken a lot longer, we know that we're going to reap the rewards in the form of a 6-year lease for £1,400 a month, which is a lot more secure than £750 a month. Yes, we would have finished it 3 months ago, but a lot less rental, and also you've got management fees, you've got uncertainty, you've got to manage the tenant, potential voids, and general tenant.
So many benefits.
Exactly. So yeah, it has been painful. And when I think about that, people ask me, oh, have you finished that project yet? I'm like, nah, still going. Like, oh, not doing a good job, is he? I know that in my mind, I'm like, it'll all be worth it in the end. It's
long term. To quote this really great guy on YouTube who says the long game. You know, it's the definition of the long game.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and for anyone, and again, just to drive this point home, for anyone that doesn't know, South Wales, you have to get planning for HMO.
Yes.
Whereas like anywhere else in the main parts of the UK, you can get under up to 6 bedrooms with a HMO license. Whereas here, you've got that added barrier of getting planning, don't you?
Yes, so you need to get HMO planning and also potential license. However, if it's with social housing, and it varies case by case, some social housing agencies will sort out the HMO license parts of it.
Right.
So you only need to worry about the actual license, planning.
Yeah.
But that came through after a lot of consultation, and yeah, they're happy with it. We did actually get some resistance from a council member suggesting HMO wasn't appropriate in this area, but in the end, the planning department couldn't see any reason why not to give it.
Good.
If it's the things you've got to think about, parking spaces, and also public transport, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We are in a more remote area of South Wales, but at the end of the day, there's still a huge need for social housing. So if that is there with public transport, and it was technically a 3-bed, so changing to a 4-bed, the council will say, oh, you're just adding 1 extra potential parking space. But then they even put underneath, they say, generally, folks that live in a HMO, not everyone owns a car. So yeah, and on this particular road, it's not filled with cars on the road. So
yeah, it's probably more about public transport.
Exactly. There's literally a bus stop, you know, a couple 150 yards away. So it all works. And like I said, definitely a push to get this through. But yeah, we're focused on the end game. And so as soon as we get the extension done, make the kitchen a bit bigger, add some really good value to that, adding size to it, and do it up to a nice high standards. We're confident we can pull out most of our cash on this with a really good rental and go from there.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much for letting us have a look around.
Yeah, pleasure.
In this video, what I wanted to do was just quickly cover the pros versus the cons of doing this kind of model, because you know that I am really into the vanilla buy-to-let properties, and then I'm coming to different people's projects and I'm really showing HMOs. And I think there's some real pros for you guys to be thinking about doing like a social housing HMO, but I also think there's some cons. So I made some notes. Obviously, pros are going to be the fact that when you complete this project, when you hand it over to a provider, of course you're going to get more cash flow. An example, in this house, Matt has actually said that potentially he will get £1,400 rent for the 4 bedrooms versus $850 in terms of rent from it being a standard buy-to-let. So that's a clear pro, being, you know, not double, but you know, probably 40% more in terms of rent by going down the social housing route. And once he hands it over to the social housing provider, then of course it's going to be completely hands off for potentially 5, 6 or 7 year leases, depending what you agree with your social housing provider. Hands off being that they take care of obviously the people that are living here, they take care of the minor maintenance works. Obviously if there's any voids, they're dealing with that. So there's such a benefit in that sense. I've also just wanted to touch on the fact that there aren't en-suites required in each bedroom. Like if you did in a sort of premium HMO that you're going to rent out to professionals, you're going to need an en-suite in each bedroom. Therefore, it's more simple refurbs. Less bathrooms to put in, less pipe work, less cost. Obviously you can go for perhaps a more basic kitchen, a more basic bathroom. Therefore you're bringing that HMO cost down. So the barrier to entry is also much lower. And that's probably the main reasons that you might consider doing this. Obviously, there's a lot more in terms of logistics and working with builders, and therefore I wanted to talk about the cons, because the cons of doing social housing over a standard BRR buy-to-let is it's gonna be a larger refurb. Although I've just said it's not gonna be quite as much as a professional HMO, it's still gonna be a larger refurb than a typical buy-to-let. In Wales specifically, you have to get planning permission for a HMO. And then if you work with a provider, obviously they can help you get your HMO license. Anywhere else in the UK, that's not required. You don't need planning permission up to 6-bedroom HMO unless it's in an Article 4 area. But for anywhere outside of Article 4, you don't need planning, but you still need to go and get your HMO license. The other con is, in my eyes, is what is the exit strategy? Because effectively you're taking on a 5 to 7 year term, and at the end of that, what is going to happen? Okay, will they renew that? Is there still going to be demand for this? Probably, yes. Will they still be demand for it here, or will they move the residents, the people living here, somewhere else? I think the chances are absolutely yes, because we do know there's a shortage of housing, there's lots of people, big population, and there's that real shortage right now. But that is still something else to consider. And then lastly, is the actual social housing provider themselves, because these are businesses that are running these leases. Some of them are backed by the government, but do be careful who you work with. A potential con is the fact that you are working with a social housing provider, but they're just a company that could have all of the other problems that other companies have, such as paying tax, staff, cash flow problems, etc., etc. So if someone was to go bankrupt or a company's to go into liquidation, that is a potential issue. And again, you wouldn't have that with, let's say, a standard buy-to-let. You know, standard buy-to-let, let's walk through that quickly. You're going to have a lower refurb cost, quicker turnaround. You don't have planning permission or HMO license problems, and you don't have any problems with the type of tenant that are moving in or the provider that you're working with. And I just really quickly wanted to touch on that and give you some value in this video as to why you might weigh up your options rather than just bulldoze in and choose one. Really think about what works for you long term, not just about the pound signs, which is very easy to do in this game. So yeah, we'll leave it at that.